1 second.
Okay, there we go. Now we're speaking out of the right microphone. Hello, my friends. How are all of y'all doing? Mortal, welcome in. A Wolf Alone. Hello, hello. Stu over on YouTube. Welcome in. Thanks for watching. Anoanar, hello. Howdy yourself. I see Reflected Puppy. A little reflected boy. Just a boy here for a visit. We also have our boyfriend here.
Our collective boyfriend.
Would you like to come say hi?
Yes, I am. I'm becoming decent.
Is he becoming decent? Just stand there ominously. Welcome in, welcome in. Robert, welcome in. Oops, I bumped the mic. Sorry about that. Robert, welcome in. Lovely to see ya. And Longshot, welcome in. How are all y'all doing? You'll have a boyfriend torse. Just a good torse. A healthy amount of torse.
Like a cartoon dad.
Cartoon dad. Can you give us a couple good, like, womp, 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 womp? Beautiful.
Is that pretty good?
That was perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
How are all y'all doing? How is everything? Did you guys watch the rest of the Greyhawk mega stream through the weekend? Yeah, I saw Wolf Alone mentioned in Lord Kazumba's wrap-up stream, we exceeded the $25,000 goal for St. Jude's Children's Hospital, which is absolutely incredible. So huge, huge, huge thank you to everyone who tuned in and supported. You supported a really great cause, so thank you. Look at them, baby. There you go. Oh. Mondays, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about them, but Mondays are always crazy for me. They've just been getting wilder and wilder. I've started doing physical therapy on Mondays. And let me tell you, if you didn't know, physical therapy is really intense. And it's a lot of work. Here I thought it'd be easy. But yeah, excuse my energy levels tonight. I'm definitely on the sleepy side. But hey, that's okay, you know? Because, sorry, this is just hot. This is a cozy stream anyway. This is meant to be just like a cozy, chill little time. So we are gonna have a lovely, chill, cozy stream, and it's gonna be wonderful. Nap stream! Here's the thing. Nothing is confirmed. I am trying to rope the other trolls into a subathon. So maybe you'll get to see a little nap stream at TLG. I think it'd be super fun. Who doesn't want to see the trolls like delirious and exhausted at like 4 a.m.? We love that. But how are y'all? Anoanar, how was your weekend? You said it was super busy. Brad, that's a year. Welcome back for month 12, my friend. Thank you so much for supporting the Twitch channel. Arthur Hofford on YouTube. Looking forward to it. I hope your partner has brought you lots of hot dogs and you've caught up on Final Fantasy. The hot dog part, yes. The Final Fantasy part, no. I've only ever played Final Fantasy 15. I know that there's a 16 out now. We haven't played it, but we've been eyeing it. It's hard to resist. And thanks for watching on YouTube, Arthur. We appreciate you. Isn't that just going to be the Gary Con stream? Maybe. I mean, who can say? Living and kicking best I can. That is excellent. Lots of entertaining kids and playing Mr. Mom. I see. Excellent. Well, hey, that sounds nice. That sounds lovely. Hey, Azur, welcome in. So good to see you, my friend. Thank you for the water. I appreciate you. This guy, my goodness. How lucky am I? I want my month and a half of tattoo stuff goes relatively quickly and easily. Oh yeah, because you just got your tattoo, didn't you? I have not been on Discord lately. I'm so sorry. Did you post a picture? Hang on. Taking a quick break from the live stream to look at Discord. Oh my goodness! Round 1 is done. It looks so good. Look at him. Looks awesome. Nick is looking now.
Oh, hell yeah.
That turned out so cool. That's coming along great, Robert.
Alright, is it gonna have color in it? Is it gonna be colored?
I don't know. Robert, is it going to be colored? Super cool looking.
How long of a session was that?
It must have taken a while.
Yeah.
I got my tattoo and I get the second half on the 23rd. No color. It took 2 hours.
Bless.
Damn.
I could not imagine getting a tattoo that big, like, colored.
Same. God. That'd be nuts. Ooh, I've been playing Final Fantasy 16 with my sister, and we've enjoyed the story. We're both old school Final Fantasy fans, so we're a little disappointed with gameplay directions, but it is what it is. That's fair. I mean, everyone's got their thing, you know. I was saying how we've been eyeing Final Fantasy 16. Who knows in the future? Yeah, you could just, like, one day get it colored.
True.
The guy's face is already skin colored, so... Is there a pic in the Discord? It's in the Hearth Coven Games Discord. If you're not in that one, I'm not sure. Let me just post a quick invite. This is not the TLG Discord. This is the Hearth Coven Games Discord. This is where... well, it's the Discord for the crew that you'll see at the booth at GaryCon. It's myself, it's Nick, it's Zach and Emily, Chris, and Johnny. And yeah, that's us. That's Hearth Coven Games.
Hey, unrelated to anything,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think if, out of curiosity, someone ate, like, an entire packet of active dry yeast? What would happen to them?
Did
Just
you guys
out
hear
of,
that?
like, culinary curiosity, do you think that's safe?
If someone were to eat an entire packet of active dry yeast,
Out of culinary curiosity,
somebody,
anyone.
just a hypothetical person.
I mean, we're all people.
You know, I think it'd be fine. Hypothetically, would it be delicious?
I mean, I don't know. I couldn't say anything about that, but just
That's
like
good.
in terms of safety.
Nothing good. Somebody should probably go to the doctor. Arthur Hoffert says, the very first Dragon Quest game is the best. It is an open world and plorps you, right? Implorps you in front of a castle and demands that you figure your shit out. That sounds awesome. I like the creative use of the word plorp. I'm into that. Dragon Quest. That sounds really familiar.
It's by Akira Toriyama, who's like the same person who did Dragon Ball.
Yo, that's cool. Dragon Quest. Ooh, okay, this looks cool.
If
Maybe.
anybody's interested in RPGs, Golden Sun just dropped on Nintendo Switch.
Golden Sun, Nintendo Switch. Let's go. Will it foam up? Touch of the rabies. Just in general? Just a touch of rabies. Just a little bit. Just a culinary appreciative amount of rabies, you know? Just for the foam. A touch of rabies foam to just finish it off. Dragon Quest was the second or third RPG published by SPI than TSR. Some game company later on copied the name for a computer game. Hell yeah. I've never heard of that. That's awesome. But hey, speaking of things that are awesome, Mad Nerd Hours, I love it. You have come to the right place if you like Mad Nerd Hours, my friend. I'm happy that you're here. If this is your first time here on a Monday, welcome. My name is Grace, and every single Monday I hop in on Twitch and Facebook Live and YouTube Live, and we read some fiction. and sometimes we read like narrative fiction. Right now we are actually reading through the Codex of Aihrde, which is a history of the world setting Aihrde, which is like kind of the setting produced by Trollord Games for the game system Castles and Crusades. They've also published, Castle Zagig, and are currently working on Inzea, which is a whole new setting, which is also related to Aihrde, so that's going to be really exciting. But this is kind of like the OG, and we've done this once before, and it was super fun, and we're doing it again. We're just learning a little bit about Aihrde, and this is meant to just be like a really cozy, nice time. It's a great one if you want to like body double, get some chores done, get some homework done. So yeah, that's pretty much what we're about here. Last we left off, we are kind of in the early days of Aihrde. It is just beginning to be peopled with dwarves and men and giants and halflings and the like. We are right now learning about the merfolk after just completing the love story of Aihrde, the moon, and Aihlor, the god of the sea. And they have just together created the merfolk. So I'm going to take a couple other little sips of this tea, and then I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, I apologize if my voice is kind of definitely a little bit on the sleepy side today. If I start to lose my voice, we'll chill out. It's kind of hot, not going to lie. Yeah, just like a really cheeky moon goddess and sea goddess just get together and they make mermaids. Come on. So, settle in, enjoy, and do I say stuff? Trollza. Of the merfolk. As is written, Aihrde descended into the seas to consort with Aihlor, lord of the green halls. And for her amusement, he cast the merfolk into a shape that mimicked his and hers, and that Aihrde placed the light of knowledge in them. He made them whole, with arms and hands as such he bore. But from their bodies sprouted a range of gossamer fins that they wore like clothing. The women bore a resemblance to Aihrde, and they were beautiful and curious of all things. The men of that species acted as Aihlor, strong and mirthful, and the race itself was mischievous and laughed over much, so that in later ages men grew to fear them for their haunting voices, which carried through the water and into the air. But the light of Aihrde was always in the merfolk, though greater in the women than the men, and they bore it as a lamp before them, and it lit the way through the dark hazards of the ocean deeps. So it came to pass that the mermaids swam in deeper waters than all others, bearing with them their glowing lamps. These they could extinguish at will, or use to light the way. Sailors, I've been used to saying Aihlor, sailors who spied the mermaids feared them, for the lights moving under the water had a ghostly look, and at first they did not know what they were. In later ages, when knowledge spread, they knew to never trust the merfolk, the women most of all, for they lured men into the depths where they drowned. The merfolk are not accounted in the peoples of the world, for they are wild and deathless. They do not dwell in kingdoms, nor lust for power or knowledge, but dwell only in the hope of sport. They range in waters cold and warm, living in the open seas, hunting fish, whales, and other creatures of the sea. They do not break the surface of the water often, though they can, if they so desire. Excuse me. As is told in other tales, Andoroth, the sailor, perished at sea, and when the fire of his life left him, Aelor grieved Andoroth's death. It happened that at the time, Narhite lay in the green halls, and Aelor sought his advice and asked what might come of the sailor. Ever one to dispense evil, Narhite told Aelor that Andoroth would travel the Arc of Time and be devoured by the Gagilmesh of Orndul. He persuaded Aelor that he could rein in the Arc of Time and save Andoroth from his doom. And Aelor took heed of his brother's words and opened the world beneath the seas. There he strove with the will of the Allfather for the soul of Andoroth. Narhite took advantage of Aelor's absence and swam out amongst the merfolk. He frolicked with them, and they welcomed his carefree spirit, for he laughed and loved with them. But of all the Val Ericune, Narhite is the most unwholesome, for there is no part of him that is good nor kind unless by accident or neglect. He placed in the merfolk a darkness, so that ever after they knew fear. Some he corrupted with a twisted spawn, so evil creatures, foul and broken, were born to them. Aelor's folk shunned and drove these abominations into the deeper seas, where they thrived and multiplied. They called themselves the Seogan, the Unwanted, and they made war upon the merfolk ever after. When at last Aelor learned the truth of the Arc of Time, he made to secure Andoroth in other ways. When he returned to the Green Halls, he found his people fearful, and Narhite making greater mischief. Aelor laughed at Narhite's joke and made to run him off, but Narhite lingered, enjoying his adventures under the sea. "Brother, you must pay for meddling with my folk and lingering in my waters. Make a creature that all will marvel, and that will people the deep waters. Make it yours, and we will hunt it ever after, so that my people may have their vengeance upon you." Aye, that I might do, for I have had a mind to mimic you all in your creations. But let me ponder this in the deep and quiet places of the sea, and make good at what I can. Go then, but do not take over long, for the world is changing above, and you do not want to be forgotten. So Narhite repaired to the deep oceans, and there dwelt for a long while. The merfolk came and taunted him with their lamps of knowledge, tormenting him for the fear of wisdom he gave them. Narhite turned this way and that and tried to drive them off, but they were too fast, and he possessed too few limbs. And it passed that he found a Puala beast layered in the deeps, with a long tail of a body, but a head sprouting 8 tentacles. The beast was a marvel to Narhite, and it gave him an idea. He made the octopus, squid, and the kraken, and unleashed these creatures into the sea. Aggressive and huge, they possessed of a cunning only Narhite could give them. They ranged far and wide, feeding on all the creatures of Aelor's design. He then made the crabs and other creatures that walked upon the ocean floors. These feasted on all that settled upon the ocean's bottoms. The merfolk took to hunting them, especially the giant squid, for they were fast and very aggressive. Aelor laughed at all this, and called the debt paid in full, though he found no beauty in Narhite's creatures, not creations. He saw, but did not care, that Narhite had gifted some with intelligence. These were very large, and they settled into the deep places of the seas, devouring knowledge, growing ever more powerful. Sages called them the dark children of Narhite. The merfolk saw them and hunted them whenever they could, rooting them out of their deep holes. In time, some of these creatures grew too great for the merfolk to challenge, and these remained at the bottom of the sea. As with any of the creations of Narhite, they had no purpose or thought other than their own, and he cared not what role, if any, they played in the unfolding of Aihrde. So, the merfolk found the oceans a dangerous place. But this mattered little to them, for they loved the hunt, and it seemed to them that Narhite had only made them even more sport. The charms of Inza. It is known that the Allfather gave the breath of life to the giants of the forge of his making. Some of these were greater, others less, but all wandered in time across the world. Of them all, the most knowledgeable were the Bult. The Bult dwelt in high places and reveled in creation, for their minds were deep, and their understanding of things was greater than that of all their kindred. They built themselves a kingdom in the clouds, and they called it the Kingdom of Bult, though it was short-lived. Inza saw this, even through the maelstrom, and she coveted the Bult as slaves. In time, she stole through the maelstrom and came to the world of the Allfather, hungry for knowledge. She came upon the Bult and wove a spell of charming about them, bidding them come to Inzea. I shall give over to you the whole of the world of Inzea to fashion in your image. And this appealed to them, for they understood that all they did was in the shadow of the Allfather, and they did not understand who or what Inza was. Whoa, puppy. But Inza's shadow is tangible, and her mind bent on destruction and slavery. Hers is a calculated mindlessness that devours all things. Her words dissembled the truth and beguiled the people of the Bult, so that they took up their tools in gladness and followed her to the world beyond the world. She bound them to her then, and forbid they ever return to the world of the Allfather. The Bult became one with the world of Inzea, and even as it stood under the dragon's doom, so did they, and so they were lost. The greater part of the Bult followed Inza, but some few remained in Aihrde, fleeing into the wilderness of the world, and these became creatures fell and powerful, and they became a people apart from their kin, though they never forgot she that destroyed them. Those Bult who followed Inza fell from the memories of the world, and no word of them came again to Aihrde until the dwarven smiths of Norgorod Cam uncovered the tunnels between the worlds and fashioned the rings of brass. Only then was the knowledge of their servitude revealed, and Sorry, there's a typo in here. And they learned that they were slaves of Inza and treated as thralls, so that their power broke and that she consumed them, body and soul. These giants took up the name Trodagan, meaning the forgotten. Ooh, and we have made it to the third oration. Third oration, Songs of the Dwarves, wherein the dwarves order their world to repay the Andanuth, the dead of life, of the coming of goblins, and the worth of men, the fall of Mordius, and the red cloak, and the rising might of the red god, of the long wars and the lamentations. The chroniclers account this the third rin upon the arc of time. Rune lore. As is told, after the dwarves came to the world, the Allfathers sat and pondered a long while. Many wandered away from Aihrde in those days, but the greater part of the dwarves remained in his shadow. At last, he sought to teach them the language of creation, for he saw in them the iron of his own will, and he thought that they might master it and add to his own creation. They listened and learned what they could. The early fathers of the dwarves could speak the language of creation, though in practical application it failed them. Its subtleties escaped the hard-minded dwarves, and their craft suffered for it. The dwarven Allfathers, priests of their realm, managed the language better, but even they failed to master it. Their creations required the hammer to shape, and the mind to mold. In the fashioning of items of metal and stone, and carving great halls of wondrous beauty from the bones of the earth, they excelled, surpassing all others that came before or after. The language proved greater than that, however, for its power comes from the everlasting void and the depths of the Allfather's mind. It is subtle and brutal, fair and foul. It flows without restraint, but is bound in iron. It is a rope with no end. The dwarves, ever masterful, sought to control the world through which they trod, but the seen and the unseen, and the nuances of the language escaped them. They might create, but their creations fell short of the Maker's desires. The greatest of the dwarven smiths took their knowledge, that which they understood, and marked it down in the mammoth scrolls, the holy writings of the early dwarves. They cast the scrolls in thin sheets of brass and etched all the history of the world, its making, those beings that moved across it, the runes, and the language of creation as they understood it. The scrolls they rolled up and placed in stone cases and set in the high halls of Gorthorog atop Mount Austrian. The ever-practical dwarves understood their limitations and, using the mammoth scrolls, recast the language in those long-ago days. They set to crafting the words of the language into physical constructs, making tools of its power. This power they captured in a complicated and vast set of written characters, the dwarven runes. The runes contained power, often many-layered upon each other. The dwarves crafted these runes into items and objects of their own desire. Thus the runes came to be, glyphs with the power of the Allfather's words bound within them. The dwarves learned that few substances could contain the written marks. Stones would break, wood would rot to ruin, bones would decay to dust. Brass, they discovered, kept the runes intact, as would parchment made of dragon wings, and the flesh of dwarf, man, or giant. Ship of Fools, welcome in, good to see you. They turned to this new craft, placing the runes upon sheets of brass, dragon parchment, or their own bodies to carry them out into the world where their power might better serve the dwarves in war and peace. With these runes, they made many wonders. They built halls of deep glory, treasures of renown, worked jewels into crowns, and performed other wonders unsung by man or elf. Trigal the mage later regrouped the runes of dwarven manufacture into schools. He named them each the 4 pillars: the arcs of time, paths of umbra, grey mist, and on and on. For the most part, the runes fell into darkness, lost in time. But in ages to come, word of them came to the scholars of kings and the wizards of men. These individuals searched for the secrets of rune lore, questing for their power and the wealth they promised. Many tried, and many died, but some few won out and, in the end, unraveled the sorcery behind the runes. Only a few of the runes had found their way into the light. Many more lay buried, waiting discovery by some stalwart brave enough to crawl into the hidden recesses of the world. Though the dwarves learned the language from the Allfather, they taught themselves the secrets of metalworking and became greater smiths than ever Aihrde imagined. His voice had carried the promise of things to come and revealed the nature of things that had been, and the dwarves used this knowledge in all that they did and quickly mastered stone and metal. These they shaped and wrought into tools with which they could build homes and roads between them. Here rose the ancestors of Angrod the Mighty, from whom descended Dolgan, king of Grundlik-Hol, and Helgestol, the Iron Shaper, who proved skillful in all that they set their minds to. All dwarves took the Allfather's teachings to heart and set their minds to many tasks of making and manufacture. They were ever the masters of creation because of these gifts from the Allfather, and with it they thought to pay the debt of life. The dwarves took what Aihrde taught them and used it in their own manner. They shaped objects from the elements. Where the Allfather had used only the substance of the void, the dwarves used all things. They used every type of metal, stone, sand, wood, and all things, and they mastered the use of water and the power of steams and all states of air to heat and cool their manufactures. They tunneled for these resources, and by so doing, they first unearthed the treasures of the earth. These were Orndul's creation, the gold and silver that lie in deep veins beneath mountain and hill. With these, they shaped wondrous things: brooches, staves, rings, necklaces, and more. This, however, the Allfather did not intend, and he left the dwarves to their own devices, watching in bemusement as they rethought and remade his creations. In time, the Allfather tired of the dwarves and turned his mind to other endeavors. He ascended to the heavens, and there dwelt in solitude, watching the mad races of the sisters as their heaven-bound chariots thundered across the skies. In time, Aihrde passed from the histories of the world of dwarf and dragon, and turned to the shaping of things in the maelstrom, and the ordering of his thoughts, and the planes of existence. The dwarves waxed powerful beneath the sun, and they named their world Aihrde. They named kings to rule over their people and holy men, Allfathers to guide them. They had in them a great lust for the making of beautiful things, and it is said that it was a reflection of the lust of the Allfather. Forever in his shaping of the world did he seek beauty. First home. The dwarves dwelt in the mountains of the east. They called the Arnhul. The Arnhul were tall, stark mountains with snow-capped peaks and deep roots. Trees crawled up their flanks, and grasses grew aplenty in meadows high and low. To the south, the Arnhul's rocky slopes tumbled down to the shores of the shallow sea. To the north and east lay a deep forest that the dwarves at first feared. To the west lay the broad, still waters of the Sea of Aihrde. To the west and north of the Aihrde lay the dry steppes, the Dulcet. The lands all about were inhospitable. Only a narrow stretch of mountains allowed egress from the Arnhul, and so they lived and dwelt in those mountains for many long years. The dwarves called themselves the folk. With an ever-increasing population, the folk spread throughout the Arnhul, building towns and villages. They discovered that they enjoyed the underground, protected from predators and the dragons that hunted them. Beneath the earth, rain and snow affected them little or not at all. So the dwarves tunneled into hills and mountains, making halls of stone. They crafted all manner of things, great and small, yet they were still new to their craft and spent many, many years perfecting it. Few artifacts remain from these early days, and those that do they prize, not for their perfect shape, but rather because they are relics from a time when the dwarven race was young. The Arnhul saw the first of the dwarven kingdoms, Gorthurag, first home. They cut it from the stone of Mount Austrian, that is, in the Vulgate, God's forge. Here, their greatest kings ruled, springing from the line of Argrand called Dark Eye. The pains of his labors upon the forge brought the dwarves into a new age, an age which heralded the perfection of their craft. From his hand sprang the axe of the Allfather, shaped from Aihrde metal. It was then, and still remains, the most holy of relics in all the dwarven hordes. If you don't remember, Aihrde metal is actually metal made from the Allfather's shattered hammer. The hammer that the Allfather shattered when making the dwarves. Fun fact. Argrand ruled Gorthurag for many years, and the dwarves grew great and powerful. They began tracking their days by the movements of the sun and moon. They learned many crafts. Excuse me. Fun meth, not fact. Just a little bit of fun meth. They learned many crafts: leatherworking, carpentry, and the smelting and shaping of brass, copper, and iron. They built halls beneath the mountains and roads between them. When Argrand returned to stone, his people, filled with the wonder of his memory, began migrating further from the spires of Mount Austrian. As is told, the dwarves labored with the Allfather, learning what he would teach of the language of creation, casting it into form and shape. Excuse me. They built above and below ground, and slowly pushed out from the Arnhul Mountains, following the footsteps of those earlier dwarves who had left the seat of the Allfather and never learned of the language. At first, they came to the shores of the Sea of Aihrde and wondered at it. They built small craft to ply those gentle waters. I think my time is limited. On land, they pushed up the long channel of mountains that ran north, and so came to the Crusp Mountains. From there, they spread far and wide into the northern lands, even as their kin moved south across the sea, or the dry steppes and on into the west. Dwarves sailed upon the edge of forever, and saw the mist in the west that marked the wall of worlds. They avoided the mist, for they believed it to be a curtain of death. The Mammoth Scrolls mark these days as the Great Migrations, and they saw the birth of many dwarven kingdoms. The kingdom of Grausenhart, Grimjaw in the Vulgate, they founded beneath the Crusp Mountains. In the space of a few centuries, this great kingdom rivaled Gorthorog in all but its history. In time, her line, under the Uthkin kings, would challenge that of Argrind for rule over the folk. In the cradle of the world, some settled in the brass halls, Norgrad Cam, and others to the north in those same lands at Rohaisenhole. The fifth of the great realms of the dwarves, Nodric, spread beneath mountains far to the north. All these realms in time spawned other kingdoms, but only one ever matched the greatness of the first five, Alanti. Upon the Sea of Arun, the dwarves there took up the art of shipbuilding, and soon mastered the art of sailing the waters of the world, whether river, lake, or sea. The first dwarves loved the water, for in it they saw a hint of the Allfather's challenges. Upon their great ships, they plied the oceans, exploring the whole of the world and settling in distant lands, and Andoroth was the greatest. Yet only the eldest of the dwarves remember this love for water, for after the great goblin-dwarf wars, when so many of the folk drowned, passage over water became anathema for the dwarves. To this day, they hesitate even to cross broad streams. But in those days, they possessed no fear, and battled the seas with vigor. The outposts they founded became dwarven kingdoms in later days, and Alanti became the most wondrous of all dwarven realms before its loss beneath the oceans of Aihrde. The Mammoth Scrolls relate that the dwarves could fashion ships that could master not only the water, but the sky as well. They recount tales of great boats with mast and sail, plying the heavens in quests for the unknown. Some evidence supports these legends, for in the plains beyond the Rhodope Mountains, elders speak of such a craft, which pirated the caravans of Alfstrog during the age of the Winter Dark. So, rather than moving on to the next chapter and learning of Andoroth and the sea, which is one of my favorite stories, I'm going to go ahead and end this a little bit early. I can feel myself kind of losing my voice, and I'm definitely a little bit tired after physical therapy. So I'm going to go ahead and toss us a raid to a friend. Thank you all so much for joining. This was so lovely. I absolutely love doing these readings. Go Rose. Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate you. Wolf Alone, thank you so much for being here. And Wardle, thank you for being here. This was so lovely. Let's toss a raid to my friend Adrian. She is live with some Baldur's Gate. Let's see what they're up to. We're gonna go. We're gonna be sweet. We're gonna say some nice things, and it's gonna be lovely. Thank you all again. Deathworth a 7 follow. Thank you so much, Brech. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for the follow. It was absolutely lovely to have you here, and I hope that we see you again next week, next Monday. In the meantime, we do have a whole week's worth of content on this Twitch channel. Tomorrow will be an AMA with Steve, and thank you so much for the sub. Thank you so much. we never ever expect that kind of support on Twitch. This is really just a tool for us to like get to hang out with you guys. But when you do choose to support the channel, it does make actually the biggest difference ever for us. So we don't take it for granted. Your time is still the most valuable thing you could spend here. But thank you so much. It really does make a difference, and we really appreciate it. And I hope that we see you tomorrow or next week. And what else? That's about it. Thank you all so much. We're going to go ahead and raid, and I'll see you next time. Bye, friends!